was revealed yesterday that the Department of Health and Human Services was buying up about 14 million doses of potassium iodide, which is of course used for nuclear disasters to block the uptake of radioactive isotopes. But they're going behind the scenes and doing this, getting their own stockpiles of potassium iodide, because 14 million doses isn't that much. That's military level or federal government level. They could help those individuals, because remember, you'll take multiple doses over weeks or months or whatever. So they're going behind the scenes and purchasing this. So you're not stockpiling the potassium iodide for any particular reason?
No.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you have any concerns about Fukushima, the fact that, it is melting down?
I have no idea. No, I have no idea anything about that. I purchase material for the federal government. There's no hidden agenda here.
So you don't actually know why you're buying it?
Goodbye.
Oh, wow.
Sea life die-off, as well as strange anomalies in the Pacific Ocean. Citizen journalists have gone out on their own and recorded spikes in the radiation along the beaches on the West Coast. Yet scientists, the mainstream media, and government officials, they just push aside our questioning, and they tell us to second-guess our intuition when it comes to fears of this radiation that seems to have already hit the West Coast. My guest tonight, Dr. Richard Davis, seems to think that there could be something a little more sinister behind the push to silence all of our questioning.
There were multiple reactors that occurred that blew up at Fukushima. They all had different kinds of isotopes that were involved. The MOX-3, obviously with plutonium, which is a deadly material. So we have a mixture of toxins and poisons that are being emitted into the atmosphere, under the ground, seeping into the groundwater, and now being flushed out into the Pacific Ocean with the cooling that's going on there in an unrestricted, unrestrained way. And it doesn't surprise me that you're seeing this plume now finally washing up on the shores of the western part of the United States, Canada, and eventually this will become a global phenomenon as these seawaters mix and cross the equator and move into the southern hemisphere. Although that will take some time, but nonetheless, our planet is integrated, and these cycles and the circulations that occur with the various deep and surface water currents, they're confluent. We have what's called an escalator that goes around the planet, and eventually Fukushima will become a planetary problem, not just a Pacific problem. If you look at the totality of the disaster at Fukushima, some evidence is beginning to emerge now, which is very frightening. And I haven't made a conclusion about it, but there is evidence to suspect that Fukushima may not have been an entirely natural phenomenon, that there may have been a man-made component, either with the tsunami creation, that fingerprint of the seismic activity appears to be suspicious, and people are looking at that now, of what actually occurred within the plants. That appears to be suspicious. So it would not be unreasonable if this were a 9/11 false flag type of event, that there would be a substantial cover-up that might occur after this. I'm not suggesting that that's what happened. I'm just saying that there are questions that are being raised today and no answers coming forth. Just like now, I mean, on Alex's show, he has talked about why don't they simply go out and get a footprint and a fingerprint of this material, look at these isotopes, and determine whether this is just a spike in background radiation and there really isn't anything to be concerned about, or whether this is in fact a bioaccumulation event that is occurring directly from the leakage from Fukushima as this disaster continues to unfold. Because it hasn't stopped. It has continued. I mean, these meltdowns that occurred are ongoing, and it is significantly bigger than Chernobyl. And I think that may be the reason for the lack of government response, the lack of our questions being answered. It's certainly something that fits the facts. I don't want to be labeled a conspiracy theorist. I'm just looking at it from a scientific standpoint. I don't know why some very basic, simple, fundamental questions haven't been answered right now, or at least the government saying we're looking into it, as opposed to just either silence or blowing it off entirely. That really bothers me. The fact that these measurements are not forthcoming, that they have not been made by the people who are responsible for making them, that's the thing that is most concerning. And that smells, it's not yet, I wouldn't say at this time because it's so early, but it smells of the beginning of a cover-up. We have the capability. It's something that's done, in nuclear plants every day. Why don't we do that? That's my question to the government. Why aren't we doing that and that information being released to the public? Because we're the ones who are exposed. We're the ones in danger potentially. We're the ones who have the right to know. Not knowing will cause more of a panic than knowing. I want to say this, I'm not being an alarmist. We don't know yet. And my question is, why don't we know yet? That just seems to be the most simple question to ask at this point. We don't need the government to do this for us. We have the ability with even simple equipment. And my suggestion is if the government is not going to do it, then it's up to us, the people, to do it.